full home-based learning for students at all schools and institutes of higher learning starts today. Counting just those in primary and secondary schools as well as junior colleges, that is already more than 400,000 students learning their lessons from home. And this will last until May 4th when the circuit breaker is scheduled to end.
Joining us now to discuss this is our tech editor Irene Tham. We have been trying to figure out how parents and their children have coped with home-based learning. So Irene, you have a daughter in primary 5. She did one day of home-based learning last week when the Education Ministry implemented the once-a-week HBL. And of course, she properly starts the full home-based learning today. What are some of the pain points that you have experienced or she has experienced with the student learning space, which is the HBL system?
Hi. I haven't had the time to log into a student learning space yet today, I'm not sure if the legacy system problem has been addressed. But based on what we have experienced last week, the biggest problem for me is the lack of support for devices like tablets. SLS work can only be done on the computer. And so because of that, my daughter was not able to record her Chinese reading task directly on SLS using our Apple iPad last week. A separate app must be downloaded for the recording and then the audio file uploaded on SLS separately. Similarly, she couldn't complete her math online work because the developer has somehow forgotten to add support for a virtual keyboard. So you need to physically have a keyboard, a mouse, and a laptop to be able to do the work. And I don't intend to buy her a laptop just yet to do SLS homework. I think it's too wasteful. After this 1 month, what's next? I mean, it will be an expensive paperweight, right? I mean, I prefer to use existing devices such as a tablet. I think most parents feel the same way too. But over this weekend, I've seen how parents succumb to the pressure. They bought some of this, they've been snapping up some of the cheaper laptops at consumer electronics stores.
Irene, we've seen posts on social media of some parents not coping well at all, having to juggle their work as well as facilitating HBL for their kids. And you've spoken to some parents. What are their reaction to the first day of HBL?
Well, I think the short answer is they're struggling to juggle work and to juggle the need to log in and to manage their kids. I mean, first we need to set up the device for online access and play tech support for any issues that may crop up, such as intermittent access, password issues. And then the password issues also apply to access to multiple portals, because some schools may provide homework not just on SLS, but they use private operators portals like Coolbits for math or BrainPop for science. So my daughter's work today include a few paper worksheets, access to SLS, and 2 other supplementary portals. And then you have to deal with distracted kids. They have the tendency to switch to YouTube and other apps and tabs. And parents have to monitor this too on top of the work demands. So I think, and then when students face difficulties in their work, they will ask their parents for help. Easy reach, right? And we're not sure if the teachers are readily available. You can email them, but then the corrections and the guidance may not come immediately or promptly. So I would much prefer lessons to be conducted at a slower pace, and I think some parents prefer it to be done at a slower pace too, so that the children have can focus on corrections, and also parents can focus on their work.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you're calling for slower pace lessons. We've been hearing that some parents are even calling for a 4-week break instead of the home-based learning. Is this feasible though? Because what would it mean for the entire school year?
Well, actually, I'm totally in favor of that, because I mean, rather than struggle with work and schoolwork and with so many things coming all at once at home, and then we're at each other's throats all the time. I think I mean, with HBL, it inevitably puts the burden of schooling the kids on the shoulders of parents. Many of us have full-time jobs, so and not every employee is sympathetic towards lower work productivity. So what can be done is perhaps we just call the 4 weeks, give it a total break, give the kids a break, cut parents some slack, and then the kids, when they go back to school in May or June, they can catch up with their work. I mean, these are unprecedented times, right? So I think we need to have unprecedented measures, even if it means slower catching up later on.
Right. Irene, it's interesting that you touched a bit on, creating a space for students to be able to, learn. Now, this HBL experience has to be educational, of course, for students, as it can be beyond getting them to do their studies on the student learning space. Now, what can parents do, you reckon, to replicate the school environment as much as possible? Because we understand that some parents are organizing virtual canteen breaks so their children can still interact with their classmates.
Well, there are two aspects. You have the academic aspect and the social aspect. Parents have been advised by schools to set up a daily routine for the kids involving, fixed waking up times, breakfast, schoolwork time, and then break times. I think it's very hard to do that. I mean, it's hard enough for working adults to create, all these zones for themselves at home. What more setting it up for the children? I mean, parents' inbox and WhatsApp have been beeping nonstop with work messages, demanding for immediate attention. I think we have to accept the fact that work from home, and thus by natural extension HBL, will be less organized and everything will revolve around the work demands of parents. The social aspect is more fun and it doesn't involve any parents' guidance because I think kids organize it themselves. The example you brought up on virtual canteens, virtual recess time, this was set up by a bunch of ACS boys, without the parents' help. And just because they want to, they miss each other and they want to have the time, they want to see one another, just like back in, when school was going on. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Irene. We wish you and your daughter all the very best in navigating HBL for the next 4 weeks. That was our tech editor, Irene Tham. She's written a wish list for home-based learning, and the link is in the description below if you're watching us on YouTube.